From NFL quarterback to Hollywood to the mayor's office, and now behind the mic at KXEX, this is the Alan Autry Show. No retreat.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
What the hell's going on out here? Everybody grabbing out there. Nobody.
That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
So, 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable. Free at last! Free at last!
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now, 559-899-1550.
And welcome to Alan Autry No Retreat. This is old Alan Autry, so honored and humble to have you with us as always here on a big, beautiful Tuesday, Taco Tuesday, as it has been monikered here on KXEX 1550. The best talk in town. So happy to have Bullet Bob with us. Y'all love him out there. We can tell by the emails. Well, I love him too, and been my best buddy since I can remember back in grammar school, and just such a blessing to have it come full circle. Here we are. Before the show, Bobby, we're talking about the old days playing basketball when like 5th, 6th grade. Now here we are, 2 old dudes behind the mic.
Well,
God's got a sense of humor.
We can't play basketball anymore, so I guess that's why we're here.
Well, I can, but it's not pretty.
Of course, I never did anyway. You were always the big star.
We had a lot of fun. A lot to talk about today. Boy, I tell you, that promo, I was listening to it for the first time. I mean, I hear it every time. But, you and I were like 2 millennials on our phone before the show. All these damn kids, they can't put the phone down. 30 seconds before we're supposed to go on, we're flipping through this thing trying to.
Why do I do that?
I think we just drank the Kool-Aid, man. Yeah,
it's addicting.
It got us, man. We got that big old high-tech monkey on our back.
Yeah, telling you.
But anyway, from NFL quarterback to movies to mayor's office. Man, it sounds like I can't keep a job. I thought it sounded kind of cool for a while, but now listen to that going. Everybody go, what's wrong with this dude, man? He just can't. He can't.
Well, you can keep him for a while, just not real long.
Keep
going from one to the other.
Yeah, I'm like the
some by necessity.
Yeah,
and some,
what? It's like the old in-laws. After about 5 days, they start smelling like fish. Yeah, it's like. But not judging by folks out there. Getting good response, and it's all about you folks. If you don't respond to the show, it's again what we do it for. And thank Autry's Army out there that. Growing a little bit every day. The message of faith, family, freedom is something we feel very strongly about. It's something that's under attack. That's not some far right-wing talking point. It's just reality. You just got to get the head out of the sand and look around, and unfortunately, you'll see it, in our schools and our military and our society as a whole. Definitely pervasive through the politics, and it's just something that Bobby and I, we've never seen. In our lifetime, we've seen controversy. Vietnam War. We talked about that.
Yeah.
We've seen, generational conflicts, social conflicts, but people kept being respectful to each other. There wasn't an over-the-line, poisonous atmosphere that's out there now. That if you speak to somebody that you disagree, especially this is a big thing on the left, but the right is starting to adhere to this as well. You are one of them. If you show somebody who disagrees with you respect, or you point out an obvious point that is totally non-political, but it didn't fit the narrative of either one of those parties, you're
the bad guy.
You're the bad
and
guy.
It's really the vitriol, I guess, is really what you've seen over the last several years. that instead, like you say, instead of having a rational discussion, not an argument, but a rational discussion of the issues or the topics of the day, and have an honest disagreement. Now, if you have a disagreement, then you're right. You're the bad guy. And there is no common ground, which I still believe there is. There's two sides to every nickel. And you can believe what you can believe, but do you really need to? I don't use the word hate because I think that's a terrible word. Do you really?
Our president used it today.
Well, yeah. But do you really need to go that direction and literally look across the table from somebody and say, I hate you because of your political views, because they don't match with mine? How? That's terrible. And we've gotten to that point.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I've done a lot of thinking about that because we grew up in a different era. I literally don't recognize this country, even from 10 years ago. Certainly not 20 years ago, 30 years. We've had, controversial times, difficult times in history. I don't remember the Civil War. I look like I do, but
you don't.
But I don't remember. Yeah, I was at Gettysburg there. That was awful. But in our lifetime, and the disconcerting thing about it, in terms of ever holding hope that it rectifies the situation and people start talking together, Republicans, Democrats start working together, because in a 50-50 country, if you don't work together, you're not going to get anywhere. You can have an 80-20 country, and unfortunately that 20%, you're going to go one direction. It may not be good, right, but you're going to go.
Like California.
Exactly. You're going to go. But there doesn't seem to be enough political gain. In fact, it looks to be political poison if you try to go to that, what they call the center, which I don't mean you compromise your principles by going to the center. It means, hey, you get together. Kevin McCarthy says, you know what? I need to call Nancy Pelosi. We need to get together and start seeing what we have in common, what we can work together. Or Pelosi saying, I need to call Kevin McCarthy. That ain't going to happen because the political calculation is such that that's going to hurt them. They'll either get primaried, or they'll be called a rhino, or you'll be called, I call them El Caminos, and that sort of thing. And you compare that back in the day with Reagan and all the people, especially Republicans, candidates. Reagan is revered, Bobby. He is like the boy, I'm a Reagan Republican. Reagan. Yet when you look how Reagan operated, they don't operate. I don't see one Republican on the scene of any note that operates any remotely like Reagan. Because, well, let's put an example. You remember, Reagan in Washington, the person he spent the most time with was not Dick Armey, who was the leader of the Republican wing. It was Tip O'Neill, the far left liberal in the Senate.
Right.
They would get together and get deals. And Reagan is the one that said, hey, if I get 60% of what I want from the Democrats, are we 60% friends or 40% enemies? Well, it was a rhetorical question for Reagan. Of course, he felt that you're 60% friends. Now let's work on that 40%, see if we can find other things. Try doing that today.
Well, it doesn't. It doesn't.
As a candidate, try saying that as a candidate.
It doesn't exist because it's either you give me everything I want, or we're done.
Zero-sum game.
Yep. Bottom line, you give me everything I want.
How do you break out of this?
And if you don't, then the name calling starts, and then all the slings and arrows come your way.
Which makes, we're going to get to the Buffalo shooting and the tragedy there in just a second. And Bobby, you got some great topics, but I got to say this: you search the landscape for a political leadership to arise, to come into view somewhere on the political scene, that people can go, wow, that individual, him or her, that's what we need. Somebody who can come up, bring people together just somewhat, that gives us, the people, the feeling that they're coming together and can get past. Because I think everybody deep inside, Democrat, Republican, have that feeling of dread that says inside them, we can't go on like this. Our days are numbered as a great power in the world. We cannot sustain this country being a great country going this way. And you're looking, and there has been someone emerge that has shown that, in this case, he can work with other parties and different ways of thinking and looking at things and get a lot done. And that's Ron DeSantis.
Oh, yeah.
Out of Florida.
Yeah. Well, he's definitely getting a lot done.
And if you don't dismiss him, you go see folks on the woke far left and take the time to say, I really want to see what's going on there, because if it is working and it is best for the country, what he's implementing there's some good stuff there, then we need to kind of replicate that. But they don't want to go there because they don't want to find that, because it's death by authorship. He's a Republican.
Yes.
So even if the guy had a cure for cancer, a legitimate cure for cancer, they wouldn't support it because he's a Republican. And to the same degree, there's some folks on the Republicans feel the same way.
Yep.
But anyway, we're going to see a big election happening, a primary in Pennsylvania, where we have a little celebrity factor there. Is it Mehmet Oz or Emmett? Mehmet Oz is the slight favorite over a fast-charging late person. What's her name? Kathy somebody.
Barnett.
Yes. Yeah.
Burnett or something to that.
Anyway.
I'm sorry, I didn't follow that.
Yeah, I'm just tangentially following it here. It's important. It's an important seat. The Republicans can't afford to lose it, but really high contested. I've listened to Mehmet Oz, the young lady. I have not heard her much. All I know is she's not really responding to a lot of the criticisms about the vetting of her, some of her statements in the past that many analysts say would be a killer in the general election, that alienate a lot of people. I don't know. I haven't seen them, but that's what's going on there. It's kind of a big topic everywhere, so we follow that. But let's start with you, Bobby. You got some stuff that I think could be interesting.
Did you want to go? Did you want to go local and bring that current?
Brother, I'm not the boss of you. I'm not the boss of you. You got a mic. As Reagan said,
You sound like my grandson.
I paid for this microphone, which you didn't. Remember that when
I
Reagan
didn't pay for anything in here, as a matter of fact.
Remember when Reagan said that? They cut him off. They tried to cancel him in a debate back then. They kept on. And finally, because he was a master at it, he looked at the moderator, kept cutting him off, and he said, "Excuse me, sir, I paid for this microphone." Place erupted. Went nuts. Okay, what you got? Local?
Yeah,
Local stuff?
We've been talking the last couple of days with regard to the city council situation here in Fresno and the allegation of an extortion.
The extortion.
Made
The extortion allegations by the mafia.
Made by one. Is that Brando's The Godfather?
No, I think it's Nelson Esparza talking to the city attorney. From now on,
This is a
if you
serious
want to
topic.
keep your job,
Yeah, well,
you report only to the 4 families. You don't
anyway,
report to the whole 7 families.
correct.
Okay.
And
Go
that-
ahead.
And therein lies the rub, apparently.
Oh, big rub.
So to bring folks back up to speed on this thing, one of the city council members had a
Nelson Esparza.
private conversation. Mr. Esparza had a private conversation with the now ex-city attorney, Doug Sloan, wherein he implicated, I guess that's not the right word, intimated,
Yes.
that
Good poll.
that if he didn't, that Mr. Sloan was beholden to only 4 members of the council and not the other 3. And Councilman Bredfield found out about this after a conversation with Mr.
But there was an added,
Mr.
right?
I'm sorry?
If he didn't,
If he didn't, he'd be the city attorney would be terminated because he worked for Mr. Esparza and the other 3. Mr. Bradfield subsequently spoke to Mr. Sloan prior to his departure, and it was felt that the conversation by Mr. Esparza with Mr. Sloan could potentially be an extortion attempt. As a result of Mr. Bredefeld bringing that to the public eye and public knowledge, Mr. Esparza has now filed suit against Mr. Bredefeld for defamation.
boy, the plot thickens.
This is an individual suit. The city really has nothing to do. He was named, Bredefeld was named specifically in the suit.
But defamation of character? Is that
apparently?
Okay.
With the response being that Bredefeld knows that these are lies and that. So anyway, Esparza has filed suit against another councilman, Mr. Bredefeld, and the potential for this is up in the air. They had a legal expert comment on it and said, well, if there was a statement made to this effect, it could very well fall into the extortion penal code. It won't come to, according to what I read, it won't come to trial for at least another year. And in the interim, of course, the city's going to do their due diligence and investigate everything as they are required to do under city code and charter. So there's still a lot of moving parts in this whole thing.
But potentially, it does have, if a district attorney aspect of this, an actual crime, not an internal violation of a city code that you could handle internally here. But internal, this is potentially really big stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was a major development in this as well, because if you recall, I think we talked about this on Friday when we had Miguel Arias called in, and he's supporting of Nelson Esparza, saying that this was all made up. This did not happen, this conversation. And if you see, Doug Sloan didn't say anything. This was Miguel's point of view. Made good points. Councilman Arias made good points. Nelson Esparza at that time said, this was not said. It's, my word against his, and I don't believe he said it. But since then, there's been a release of an email to the city by Doug Sloan, who confirmed Beretta Phil's rendition of what was said. He said verbatim, this did happen. This was said to me, which is a huge
big
deal in the case.
Yeah.
In terms of its legitimacy and potentiality to go further, don't you think?
It
has to be.
Absolutely. And I think, I don't want to put words in Gary's mouth, Bredfeld's mouth, but I think he said that Mr. Sloan actually gave him the
transcript?
No, the penal code for extortion, and presented that to Gary. I think, I may be wrong on that, but I think that's what occurred, which would lead one to believe that there had to have been something pretty seriously said. But we're not here to try anybody or to make any judgments, other than this is a real sticky wicket, as they would say.
Well, just us here hosting a show, and I promise you folks, sincerely, I just want what's best for the city, and it is what it is, and it's not what it's not. We're going to have to find that out, because these are very serious charges and ramifications of it if it is true. That you have a councilman or anybody, a mayor, anybody in office threatening another city official, saying, who you work for us and you do not work for them, which is a violation of the charter, and threatening that individual with termination. And you have a situation where this guy Sloan, apparently, I don't know the man, but everything I hear from the councilman, from the mayor, from other people in the community, the guy's been there 16 years. You don't hear anything bad about him. He's never had any kind of controversial remotely like this one. Santa Monica did their due diligence. Trust me, when you do a headhunting thing, I've done it as mayor. To get a new department head, you dig deep. You send people to the community and you find out if there's any skeletons in that closet. And even if there's just a couple of bones in that closet, they get X'd. He came out clean, and $100,000 more in salary there. So, we're just analytically, purely non-political, looking at this thing. And that's on this show. The Autry show, we're on record as saying, listen, this is serious. It's not frivolous. And having been in the seat when you had frivolous things accused, you get accused of frivolous things all the time if you hold office. I did for 8 years, and you don't respond to every single one. It's value for value. You have to. But I want to reiterate, as you just said, Bobby, Nelson Esparza is innocent until proven guilty. And I'm not here pulling one way or the other. I hope, initially I hope it wasn't said. But now when you have this confirmation, dadgum, it's going to be
to me.
And this has, it's not even, this is a local issue, Bobby.
Yeah.
But city councils all over the country wrestle with this sort of stuff. Power is a very, very seductive thing.
Absolute power corrupts.
Oh,
absolutely.
Man. And if you're not used to dealing with it and having it, you can let it speak to your not better angels, to your worst instincts. Sometimes that power, in terms of revenge, accelerating your position or improving your position in life. A lot of this stuff, you get a taste of that, and it can have a very intoxicating effect on you.
Well,
and I'm not saying this is the case with Nelson, but
well, I'm a pretty simple man. I can't go into too much complexity, so I just try to keep it simple and straight. Two people in this whole sordid affair really know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Nelson Esparza and Doug Sloan.
Mm-hmm.
Only two people know.
Yep.
What really was discussed, what was really said, and what the implications were.
And Vladimir Putin, he had the room booked.
And
he's over there. He knows.
So really, it just comes down to them. What was said.
Yeah.
And hopefully the truth will come out, and we'll go from there.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. This is Alan Autry, No Retreat with Bullet Bob Leone. When we come back, we're going to talk about, Elon Musk had a little something to say about the president. The president gave a speech this morning, which he said hate will not prevail. He said a lot of other things, too, and you might be surprised. And then you may not. But when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the things the president said. This is Alan Autry, No Retreat. We'll be right back. Little Sam a day.
Sam with a little.
Boy, didn't the Blues Brothers sound exactly like them?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just a
and they were doing it. They were doing it on a. They were doing it, almost as a parody. But they got together. They really did get together a big band.
Oh yeah,
and
they made a ton of dough on it.
Have you ever seen John Belushi do Joe Cocker?
Oh gosh,
is that hilarious?
That is a classic.
Have you seen the one?
And have you seen where they're side by side
with Joe Cocker?
Yeah. I watched that thing the other night. Hey, that's what I love about YouTube, folks. I really recommend. Go on YouTube. You can find some of the most amazing stuff. I spend more time on YouTube than I do.
Well, I spend my time on kids.
Trying to get up out of bed. And that's a long time. I had a cramp last night, folks. You ever get a cramp? I had a cramp in my hamstring.
Oh, man,
I'm sitting there. And
those are killers.
And you can feel it kind of bugging there, ready to just grab again. And I'm sitting there. I said, I can't do what I want to, is cry for mama. My wife would be just very disappointed. I'm sitting there just, oh God, I felt like it was back in the 1880s. Give me a bullet to write down on.
Give me a piece of wood.
Give me some whiskey and a bullet.
We're going to cut off your legs, sir. Here's some whiskey and a bullet. Bite it. Bite the bullet.
Oh, by the way, have you seen that series 1883 at Paramount Plus Network?
I started watching that.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, last night I saw the last one, episode 10. Ooh.
That's one with Sam Elliott. Right?
Sam Elliott. You got Tim McGraw and Faith Hill.
I was really surprised.
Faith Hill did a great job.
I thought they both did a good job.
Yeah.
On the episodes I saw.
This last one, it was so real, so tough, hit so deep. It was like, man, I was exhausted after watching. But really good filmmaking. This feller, Taylor Sheridan, is the guy behind the Yellowstone franchise.
Yeah.
And with Kevin Costner, which is great. And this is the Dutton family from 1883.
The prequel, right?
The prequel.
Yeah.
And then he's got another one in development. So you got 10 episodes there. That the next generation, 1930, during the Depression, will be how the Duttons.
Nice.
Then it gets up to where
where we are.
Present.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's a good writer.
Yeah, the guy's got a lot of stuff going. And he was actually he's been in a couple episodes of Yellowstone.
And a real cowboy.
Yeah, apparently so.
Yeah. If you know, just ask him.
Yeah.
Apparently he's one of those guys too.
Okay, well.
My buddy Jeff.
Not impressed.
A stepman buddy of mine worked with him, and yeah, he's quick to point out when you're not sitting quite in the saddle just right. You tell a cowboy of 20 years that they're not riding a horse right.
Mm.
But hey, there we go nitpicking. He can make great series.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
Liz Cheney. Is Liz Cheney an El Camino Republican? You know what El Camino Republican is, folks? I mean, look at El Camino. Is it a truck or is it a car? One day it feels like a truck.
I saw one the other day going down the road.
Yeah, what is it? Mitt Romney's an El Camino Republican.
An El Camino.
He does not know who
10 seconds.
Today I feel like a car. But I don't have a back seat. Back seat looks like a truck.
Oh, we're coming back on
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now, 559-899-1550.
Oh, yeah, keep it there for a little bit, Jeremy.
Back on the bayou.
On the bayou, boys. Shreveport, Louisiana, baby. Show me some drums, Bobby. All right, welcome back to Alan Autry. No retreat, back in the bayou, man. That's some good stuff, CCR.
Great show.
Even though I call myself a Nokia, I'm actually Louisiana. I'm a bayou boy. Shreveport, Louisiana, 1952. Caddo Parish, just a stone's throw from Marshall, Texas.
Yes. In fact, my wife has relatives that live in Marshall, Texas.
Really?
Yeah, it's right on the border.
A lot of swampland. We did Southern Comfort there.
It's right on the border.
In fact, that's when I met my father for the first time. I met him before, but I was like 7 months old.
I couldn't quite remember that
couldn't
initial
quite
meeting.
But found him doing a movie there, got his name on the phone. But that's a story we'll tell on the show one day. It's in my book that I'm writing. And like I said, I'm telling everything on the book here, so I don't need to put it out. I asked Lee Majors to be on the show. He goes, well, Alan, I would, but I'm writing a book. And if I come on the show, everybody wants to know about my career. They want to know about Ball Guy, Farrah Fawcett, and this. I mean, who'll read the book then? I got you, Lee.
I actually knew at one time, he's since passed away, a doctor here in town who took out Farrah Fawcett's appendix.
He's a celebrity, isn't he?
Well, he thought he was.
Is he one of those that never missed an opportunity? So, hey, you know what I got? What I did?
Doc was actually drafted by the Washington Redskins back in 1950. He went to University of North Carolina.
But he didn't brag about that. He bragged about taking Farrah Fawcett's appendix.
Well, he showed we'd have.
I probably would too, though.
We had a Cinco de Mayo party at his office every year, and he would show films of him running the ball for the 1956 Washington Redskins.
Really?
Yeah.
And he was a doctor here in Fresno.
Yeah. He's a general practitioner. Great guy. A peach of a guy.
The Redskins have Bobby Mitchell then?
No. This is way before Bobby Mitchell. He played between 56 and 59 or 60.
You know, Robert, what we're doing right now?
What?
We're really doing the classic old man thing. We're tangenting off on things people could care less.
We're going deep into the old days.
This is not good radio right now, what we're doing. I'm enjoying it.
Well, you know my theory.
But nobody out there is right now. So
you know my theory. Yeah. Start slow and taper off. That's always been my number one.
I've mastered that. I've got a PhD in that. I am the Tom Brady of that. Man, let me tell you, just watch this show or listen to this show and they'll know of what I speak. I'm an expert. Hey, did you see where Elon Musk tweeted out that, I'm sorry, folks, you think that I don't hate Joe Biden. I love Joe Biden. I want to see him just change his ways and lead this country. I'm sure he's just a very tender, loving old man like me. You know, but I got to laugh when Elon Musk tweets out that Joe Biden reminds him of Ron Burgundy of Anchorman. Only from the mind of Elon Musk. Now, come on. Even if you're an ardent Biden supporter, come on, Kamala. You know when you read that Kamala
funny.
Harris did that laugh of hers. Jeremy, can we find that laugh?
Oh, please.
We can find Kamala Harris laugh. You know that she laughed at
Ron
that.
Burgundy.
Oh my gosh.
That's hilarious.
I want to watch that movie. One of the great movies of all time. But anyway, seriously, he had a speech today at the site of this tragedy in Buffalo and just a horrifying tragedy. 10 people killed by an 18-year-old white, because you always got to say that. You know, the mainstream media is not going to let you forget it, that he's a white supremacist, which is, you know, the left and Joe Biden has tried to tie the white supremacist movement with Fox News. And this kid in his so-called manifesto has said that Fox News is an enemy, and as well as black people. So I don't know what that does to their narrative, that apparently that BLM and Fox News to this individual is just the same stuff. So again, he goes there, which he should.
Yes,
to the site.
I think that's a good move.
But to console the families. These families haven't had time to process what's happened. They haven't even had the funerals. Some of them haven't even seen their deceased relatives yet. They're trying to work this out. And he's there delivering this speech, and when you read it, it's just a political diatribe on white supremacy, laying this tragedy at the foot of white supremacy. And in it, he has the audacity to say, hate will not prevail. Well, you know, I'm with you on that, Joe. Yeah. But you know what could help? If you stop spewing hate. You're the president of the freaking United States of America. Set an example of not spewing hate. You don't miss a chance to call somebody who supports Trump a Neanderthal. To call it anybody who's for lower taxes and a secure border white supremacists. You pull out every stinking name demeaning that's fed to you by the woke far left, and some I think you make up yourself because they're not very creative. And then you have the gall to say hate won't prevail. And you accuse other people to being divisive. And you say in your State of the Union, you say in your campaign, I want to bring people together. Yeah, you want to bring together all your 50% or whatever it is, get together and demonize the other half of the country and say that if it wasn't for Trump, they would be pro-choice. If it wasn't for Trump, they would be for open borders. If it wasn't for Trump, they would support out-of-control crime and bailing and no bail and defunding the police. If it wasn't for Trump, all of those idiots out there, all those haters out there would think like you. That would say you could have abortion at any time, 8, 9 months, abortion on demand. Open borders, come in, it doesn't matter where you come from, come on in. We'll pay for it, you blow something up, it doesn't matter. Crime in our streets, that's all right. I got my security. I got my personal security. I got my gated house, 4 of them. You guys are left to think, gun control? Yeah, not for my bodyguards. For you, that single mother living in a crime-ridden part of the country where the only defense you have is that gun underneath your bed, you don't deserve to have it. And by the way, when somebody comes to try to break down your door and hurt you and your kids, we're going to defund the police. So you don't get a cop and you don't get a gun. What? You just got to sit there and take it like they do in Chicago every single night. 33 people over the last week shot and killed in Chicago.
Why isn't Joe going to Chicago?
You know,
those
just
lives
tell me.
Don't matter? Why isn't he at the southern border and caring about the influx of folks who are being gathered in by the cartels and used as mules, and the young people that are young girls used as sex slaves and murdered? He doesn't care about those people. That's my whole issue.
Because you're right, they don't care about it.
Why wasn't he in Waukesha, Wisconsin in December?
When 5 innocent people were mowed down by, you want to bring race into everything? A black individual named Brooks who had posted racist, anti-white things on social media, just like this guy in Buffalo. How about this guy, Frank James, posted a ton of anti-white, pro-BLM stuff. Red flag should have went up there, right? You didn't do anything there. Gets on a subway in Brooklyn.
Yep. 10
people shot. You didn't go there. Why didn't you go to Brooklyn? Why didn't you go to Waukesha, as you said? These are questions.
Yeah.
But you know what?
The Latinos at the border, they don't matter.
But you know who we are now?
It doesn't count?
Exactly. Us simply asking those questions, we, in their eyes, are white supremacist. You know, and here's the thing that gets me. You call me what you want, but if you call me a white supremacist, you're insulting my mama, who raised me to treat everyone with respect. She worked those fields with blacks, Hispanics, poor whites. Okay? You don't call, she raised me from her heart to treat everybody the same. We are all equal. And I took that into my heart. So does this guy here behind that mic, Bullet Bob. The thing is, you're not going to silence us. We're too damn old. We're not going to go out acquiescing and backing down and kissing your ring of hatred.
I get tired of the hypocrisy.
Here's what I'm so worked up. It gets me all the time, but I'm usually more composed than this. But you just have these poor people shot down, and you have a church here in California where a guy goes in. They don't mention anything about that. It's Asian on Asian crime.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be a white on black crime before a murder matters. Your life doesn't really matter at all unless it doesn't, as you said, fit the narrative.
Yeah.
And
he did say some things.
Come on, Joe. Come on, man.
He did say some things I think we can all agree on.
Please tell me. I'm all ears.
Condemn racism.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Yes. But can you follow it with a racist statement?
Well, he needs new writers, I guess. I don't know. That actually can put two sentences together and make sense.
Why don't they see this one? Let me ask you this. Every single time, it's about white supremacy and guns. Take away the guns and go execute every white supremacist that you can find. And again, their definition of white supremacy, trust me, that's right out of Hitler's playbook. That's not an exaggeration. Okay? What they're saying, you support CRT that says you are born a certain way. You're born a racist if you're white. You can't help yourself. That's right out of the eugenics, which was alive and well all over Europe, and particularly the United States, with a president, Calvin Coolidge, that said certain races are just inferior. You know who supported that? To the T, Margaret Sanger. Yes, that same Margaret Sanger who created Planned Parenthood with the purpose of putting black people off the face of the earth because they felt they were inferior. That concept of your birth determines whether you're a good person or bad person, and other characteristics in your life, and on examination of that, you're to be held accountable, and if need be, severe action taken against you. Mm-hmm. Imprisonment, death, in Hitler's case, hey, the final solution. 6 million dead Jews later. I mean, and Bobby, people say, well, Alan, you're kind of really carrying this too far. No, I'm not. You know? I think we got a caller here. We want to take that caller now, Howard? We got Howard James out of Longview, Texas. Howard,
I'm here.
Howard,
I'm here, Alan. I heard you mention Marshall, Texas, and 30 miles. I had to ring you up and everything.
Well, I'm glad you stopped my tirade there. Well, yeah, I am a little bit, but no, go ahead.
What I wanted to comment on is Biden's remarks and all that after the Buffalo, New York shootings, where evil will not win, hate will not prevail. But to me, that's a fine choice of words, and he's addressing the victims, the survivors, the ones who have evil on their hands, have hate on their hands. I mean, they're not the ones doing it, but it is prevailing. Otherwise, he wouldn't say that. I mean, what's your opinion, Alan?
Well, gosh, that's a loaded question there. I mean, in terms of prevailing. See, I come from a spiritual base on all of this stuff. I believe in a constrained vision as opposed to an unconstrained vision. By that I mean it's Thomas Sowell talks about that. And the constrained vision means that you look at the world through the lens that men, people, human beings are flawed. And those flaws are fixed. They're never going to change. And you have to create institutions that can only contain those flaws. And that's why we have a separation of powers in the United States of America. And during the French Revolution, they went with the unconstrained, meaning that the only man is inherently good. And if you just get the right people and the right institutions, you'll have utopia here. You'll have heaven on earth. And so I, in terms of hate prevailing, it will always be with us. But it's us who have the hearts that we were given by God to stand up against that, to rebuke that. That's where I stand on it. And when I see elected leaders, which have been appointed by God to, they were elected, but they're appointed. God can turn that electorate any way he wants to. And sometimes he picks leaders that we're scratching our head. But the Bible's full of things of that nature where he used, as HB says, he built straight paths with crooked nails. And maybe that's the case here with Joe Biden. But that's a long-winded way of saying yeah, you're going to see hate in this world. It's going to rear its ugly head, but it's up to us, and especially the United States of America, to stand up against that. And you don't beat hate with hate. You don't beat darkness with darkness. You beat hate with love, and you beat darkness with light. And when I see Joe Biden going back there giving lip service, saying, hate won't prevail, and then proceeds to vilify, and everybody knows he's talking about, and calling everybody, 50% of the country, white supremacists, basically calling them evil. So we're at a crossroads in this country, and I think the midterm elections are going to say a lot, But yeah, Howard, I appreciate you calling in. Appreciate you so much. Let's go to our other caller, Laura Fisher. Laura.
Hello.
Hello there, sister. How you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I'm going to meet my future husband this weekend.
You're going to meet Elon.
Yes, I went and got my hair. I did my test run on my hair, my makeup. I'm going to get waxed like a ballroom floor on Thursday. And
you're going to drive up
in never hear from me again.
You're going to drive up in a Tesla?
Well, I may be in jail. We don't know. Depends on how this goes down.
When you get his ear, tell him to drop the price on those things about $10,000.
Well, I won't have to pay for it if I'm with him. He'll take care of it.
Oh, that's you. Just always thinking about yourself.
You got that right.
All right. You said you got about comment about education and Hitler. I'm interested in hearing that.
Well, you invoked Hitler, but actually what's happening in our education system, if you go back and you look at Mao Zedong's policy, 1965 to 1967, and the Cultural Revolution of China, that's what's happening in our education system. It's not Hitler. It doesn't matter what the context is, because if you go all the way back to Obama with Common Core was something that us Gen Xers weren't taught. We had kids in school at that time, and so that was the first separation from the parents, because we were not taught Common Core. So they began looking at education models that would separate children from their parents in the educational sphere. That's exactly what Mao Zedong did.
Yep.
He used different educational models, knowing that the parents would not be able to assist in homework, class projects, things like that. So that was the first separation. Then the second separation came from closed meetings with the school boards. Same thing Mao Zedong did. With the culture wars, same thing. Mao Zedong did the exact same thing. It's not Hitler, it's Mao Zedong. It's exactly what it is. It's the playbook from his Marxist regime and how he instituted the Cultural Revolution, to the point where children turned on their parents. They turned their parents in.
Yeah. And the same thing Stalin did in Russia. Yeah, he took that same playbook. Let me ask you all this. Out of all the horrible things that has come out of the pandemic, can we say now that maybe one of the good things, as difficult as it was to go through and still going through, that parents and people really got to look inside the education system, what was being taught, how it was being taught with this distance learning? No. Go ahead.
I say yes and no, because this is from firsthand experience. I'm a class mom, so I see this all the time. There's a lot of big mouths, but no action. Oh, they'll turn up to a school board meeting and show their behinds with the best of them. But when it comes to actually doing the hard work of showing up at school, of helping to do homework, of being an actual participating parent, it doesn't happen. No, everybody just wants to be a keyboard troll. That's what they want. And now that they know, well, now they have something else to be hysterical about. That's all it comes down to. Nobody really wants, you may have 20% that actually want to do the work of trying to reform our education system, but most of them just want to be idiots. I hate to say it, but it's true.
Okay,
you all the time.
Okay, you said the no, but you said yes and no. What's the yes?
The yes is the 20% who actually show up.
Like at the Virginia Loudoun County School Board, that actually show up.
I can tell you right now that only about 20% of those people that were sitting in that school board meeting actually go to the school on a regular basis. They don't go to PTA meetings. They don't go to teacher parent conferences. They don't do those things. Well, I see it here. I've been in school in schools as a volunteer since my daughter was little. So for 30 years. And it's the same story.
Do you think there's more? Okay, we have the 80% that are apathetic, what have you, 20% that get it. Is there, do you feel an a responsibility on that 20% because this issue is so important, the programming of our kids rather than the education, that they move forward and proceed to enlighten and educate the others and inspire the other 80% to move forward? I say that only because of this. What always come to mind to me, it startled me when I heard it, but it's been bared out to be true, that during the American Revolution, we hear about it, read about it. We think that everybody was ready to fight and break out of the shackles of King George, which nothing could be further from the truth. Only 1/3 of the people were for independence. 2/3 had become used to being enslaved by King George. They had everything. They were told what to do, and that was their nature. But the third knew that they had to do what they had to do, and they kept moving forward and eventually inspired the nation, the other 2/3, many of that other 2/3, to fight back and help. So to focus on the 80% and lament the fact they don't get it, should we not look at that 20% and say, hey, keep fighting, keep doing it? Go ahead.
What I'm saying, Alan, is that, and I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to give you one perfect example. There's a mom that her son is in my granddaughter's class. Okay. Oh, she could go to every school board meeting about the mask mandate. She could make it to every single meeting, no matter what time those meetings were held. But when we needed somebody to help us with a fundraiser, all we needed was a body. That was it. We didn't need her to give any money. We didn't need her to do any of that. Well, she didn't have time to do that. But she had time to go show her behind to Channel 2 News. But she didn't have time to actually come and do the hard work at the school. Our teachers are overwhelmed and they're underpaid. And with all of the changes and everything that are constantly happening in our curriculum and in our society and in our culture and what everybody's fighting about, these teachers, they don't know. They don't know whether to wind their ass or, sorry.
Oh, you just got to, I don't know if you can say that or not. Maybe.
I'm sorry, but it really makes me angry because I see it every day. I see parents standing in the office screaming because their child got in trouble for punching somebody. Mm-hmm. And they shouldn't be in trouble for doing that. They have time to come and do that, but they don't have time to come and help in the media center. They don't have time to be a class mom. They don't have time to do any of the things that are absolutely fundamental. Because if you're actually in the classroom, you actually know what's going on. You're only basing it off of hearsay. Most of these parents are only basing things off of hearsay. Yeah.
Well, I'm basing my on my own grandson, who had to persevere through the distance learning. And some of the stuff that went on in that classroom, some of the stuff that was taught was really shocking. And we would have never known. Me as a grandfather and his mother and father would have never known if they hadn't been there and actually, been in the classroom. Their living room was the classroom. And they saw how the sausage was made. And it was not pleasant. And it was shocking to some degree that this stuff was going on. Some of the curriculum that was being taught to our kids, some of the stuff that I had to unwind and drain out of my grandson's head. He gets it now. He's 11 years old. He's a very smart kid. But, the teachers and the system, we teach them to really respect that system. And the system has gotten polluted to a great degree by ideologies that have no business being in any classroom. Bobby, what's your thoughts on it? We kind of veered off onto this, but I wanted to ask Laura, and later this week, maybe you can, on this latest stuff with Mariupol falling to the Russians. Let's don't change that now. We don't have enough time to get into that. I want to get into it, though, probably tomorrow, Laura, if you can call back. We'll talk about it a bit.
Well, Laura's made me feel guilty. I need to go sit in on my grandson's class.
Yeah.
See what they're teaching him. He's in second grade.
Well, what she's saying. Go ahead.
1 hour a week.
Yeah. Laura, let me ask you this too, because you're making really good points, and it's hitting home to me. But back in the day, here we go. Back when I went to school, but several years after that as well. Bobby, you remember this. Parent participation on behalf of the school, they really encouraged that. Tell your mom and dad this. Have your mom and dad come to this meeting. There was really an effort to have an outreach to encourage parents to come to school to be part of the educational experience of your kid. If you had a problem or you heard something that was it, come and talk to the teacher, come and talk to the principal. That was really followed. But now you talk to folks, and that's the last thing the quote unquote system wants is parental involvement, the parental involvement of any kind. Parents are seen as the enemy by and large.
It's the board. It's the school board, because the school boards want to maintain autonomous control. Ask a teacher's going to give you a totally different answer.
Okay.
A teacher's going to say, please, yes, come to my class, please. I need help. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, you've had kids. You know how horrible they are? Imagine having 30 of them.
32nd graders in my grandson's class.
Yeah. So
I need a bunch of nose.
Well, why do you think?
Little chimps.
Why do you think school boards did that?
Trying to corral all that and teach them math.
Why do you think boards changed and went from, leading to controlling and picking, doing what they do, which is discourage parents from being involved? Why do you think they did that?
Deep dive in that at the same time that the Soros Foundation, because they're real big into education. The Soros Foundation, he loves education. He's all about education and controlling education. Just ask the 144 countries where he controls their education, including Ukraine. At the same time that they were dumping money into district attorney races and all these judges putting money in their coffers and so forth, they were doing the same thing with.
But what's their goal? What do you think their goal is? What's Soros's goal? What does he want taught? What is he trying? How does he want this kid to end up after K through 12? K through 12.
Society.
Say that again. I was talking.
He wants a Marxist, Leninist, hybrid, globalist society.
I agree. That's my. Really, when I say this, people laugh. It's my non-political analysis. It really, I mean, non-partisan analysis. What else could there be? I asked somebody. What could be, what does George Soros and the system want to have when this kid comes out and graduates at 18 and you had to describe that individual, their beliefs that you've poured into this kid, all of this information that you think is going to make them a good person to be able to go out in life and make it. What would be the description of you want that kid to be?
They want a compliant, productive individual that believes that what the government does, the laws that they implement, the restriction of free speech, the restriction of movement, things like that, it's in their best interest. Just ask the Chinese. This is what they've been taught since 1949.
Yep.
And those people are now dying in the younger generation because of social media and so forth. They're not falling for it anymore.
Yep.
But up until about 10 years ago, and
all right, we're running out of time, Laura. We only got about 40 seconds here, but we're going to keep this. Thank you for calling, dear, and we're going to pick this up again. I hope you'll call back tomorrow. We'll talk about that Ukraine situation. Thank you so much. She pronounces Mao Zedong is the right pronunciation.
Yeah.
For years, I called him Mousy Tongue.
Well, that's what it sounded like. I have trouble saying Alan.
Mousy tongue.
I have trouble saying Alan, Autry.
Folks,
I'm in real trouble.
Thanks for tuning in. On behalf of Bullet Bob and myself, appreciate you so much. And just remember, do your best and let God do the rest, and everything will turn out just fine. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye now.